So we welcome you to the Women's Day special. Today we're going to go directly into Canto number 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam and discover another set of glorious women who were great devotees of the Lord and who understood what was the most important thing in life, even though they may not have been philosophers themselves. But still, their mood tells us, it's very instructional for us what our mood should be towards the Supreme Lord and how we should be willing to do anything and everything for the Supreme Lord. So you'll find out today what the wives of these Brahmanas were willing to do for the Lord. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is organized into 12 cantos. And it is organized in such a way that you first have to understand and accept and have faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are about the other avatars of the Lord. And the Lord is always associating with his devotees in these various avatars. The Lord is anxious to take the association of the devotees as much as the devotees are anxious to take the association of the Supreme Lord. But sometimes in some of the avatars, the Lord is not there for a long period of time. So in different avatars, the Lord comes with a different purpose, or rather, I would say the same purpose, but with a different mood. So not all avatars of the Lord are the same because the moods are different. Yesterday we were discussing about the Varaha avatar, 2 different Varaha avatars. In one avatar, the Lord lifts Mother Earth from deep within the ocean to also restore the Vedas, which had been stolen by the demons. And in another Varaha avatar, the Lord actually comes to destroy Hiranyaksh, the demon son of Diti. So sometimes the Lord comes just to kill. Sometimes the Lord spends a little longer time in his avatar. The best example, of course, would be Lord Ram. And another best example would be Lord Krishna. Whereas when you look at Narsimadev or Vaman avatar or any other Kurma avatar or Matsya avatar, they don't stay for too long. They come for a purpose and they leave. But it is when the Lord stays for a period of time and he's having interactions and associations with his devotees, then you can really understand the sweetness of the Lord. And in today's session, although it is about the wives of the Brahmanas, you will get a small glimpse into the sweetness of Lord Krishna. So Canto 10 prepares you to understand who Lord Krishna is. Until then, you have to slowly, methodically go through all of the other avatars, accept that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, accept that that Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, and accept the fact that you are his servant. Once you have graduated in consciousness like this, then your consciousness is ready to receive Lord Krishna, because the 10th canto is the largest canto with 90 chapters in it, and all 90 chapters are about the Lord from the time of his appearance in the jail cell in Mathura until uh, he leaves to Gokul, and then Nandagram, and then finally Vrindavan. And then from there he goes back to Mathura, and from there he goes to Dwaraka, never to return to Vrindavan ever again. So the Lord's pastimes, Lord Krishna's pastimes, are not easy to understand. We cannot understand how the Lord can come as a small child and create such mischief, be so naughty, fight like a little kid with the other Gopa boys. How the Lord can be teased by the young girls. How he's made fun of. How the elderly gopis laugh at him. All these things we're not able to understand because our concept of God says that God is a supremely powerful individual, and because he's a superhero and a superpower, we all have to bow down to him. Once you've understood that you have to bow down to God, then another facet of the Lord is revealed to you in in Canto 10, that the Lord can be playful, that the Lord can be mischievous, that the Lord can have different kinds of relationships with his parents, with the gopis, with the elderly gopis, with the cowherd men, with the cowherd boys, with his cows and his calves, with all the animals in Vrindavan. You get to see a different facet of the Lord. So in this particular canto, the 10th canto, it begins with Lord Krishna occupying the womb of Mother Devaki, just like Lord Kapila occupied the womb of Mother Devahuti. How the Lord appears, the atrocities performed by King Kamsa, how Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev meet, how the Lord kills Putana when he was only 6 days old. The Lord kills Putana. Then he destroys one more demon called Trinavarta. Then he bewilders his mother when his mother has opened his mouth and counting, let me see how many teeth you have got now, Krishna. And what does she see? She sees the whole universe when the Lord opens his mouth. And then Krishna is being very naughty. He's stealing butter at the middle of the night. He's making a mess in everybody's house when he does it. And the gopis come to complain to Mother Yashoda. This time they come as a committee. Because every time one gopi would come and complain to Mother Yashoda that your son did this, your son did that. Mother Yashoda never believed them. She said, my Krishna, why does he have to come to your house to have butter? I've got the best butter in Vrindavan, and I make it for him personally. Why would he go and try to steal butter from your house? There's plenty of butter in my house. Like this, Mother Yashoda would argue with the gopis. But things had gotten to such a point that the gopis decided Mother Yashoda never believes us when we tell her how naughty her son is, how mischievous he is. They decide to form a committee and they come together. This time, Krishna is hiding behind Mother Yashoda, waiting to hear what are the gopis going to complain about him. His eyes are big with fear. He's afraid. Has he gone too far? Will Mother Yashoda finally beat him this time? Because so many gopis are there. So this time, after the committee has come and complained to Mother Yashoda, she looks at Krishna and thinks, could he have done all this? But look at his sweet smiling face, because by then, after the gopis had complained and left, Krishna was smiling very sweetly and innocently at his mother, like, how can you believe what they said about me? They are all lying. So like this, Krishna said, they are lying. You can't trust all these gopis. So this time, the Lord decides to steal in his own house. So he goes into the storeroom and breaks the pots of butter. Why? Because he was angry that his mother had put him down. He wanted her milk. And to demonstrate that he was not happy with his mother, he broke pots of butters, fed it to the monkeys, and Mother Yashoda was upset. So this Damodar Leela is there in chapter 9 of Canto 10, where Mother Yashoda is chasing Krishna. Krishna is running away in fear. He's got tears streaming down his eyes. The mascara and kajal that his mother has put, his skin is so dark, but still you can see the mascara flowing down his cheeks. So like this, so many pastimes of the Lord are there in Canto 10. So this particular pastime that we're going to talk about happens after the Lord has stolen the clothes of the Kumaris, the Gopikas. The Gopikas are around 5 or 6 years old. They wanted Krishna as their husband. So they would go very diligently in the month of Magha, go worship Katyayani. This they would do for 30 days. They kept a vrat. They didn't tell Krishna that they wanted him. Every one of them wanted him as their husband. So very faithfully, they observed this vrat for 30 days. And on the last day, Krishna comes and steals their clothes. It's right after this particular pastime that Krishna, along with his young friends, they're roaming around in the forest. Normally, every time all the children would get their lunch boxes. Each mother would give them a lunch box. But Krishna said a day ahead of time, he told all the cowherd boys, the Gopas, tomorrow we're going to eat out. Tell your mothers, no need for lunch. And the boys say, yes, whatever you say, Krishna. If Krishna says no, he will treat us for lunch, then they don't need to worry. Krishna will take care of them. So like this, the boys are there in the forest and they are playing with each other. And then the boys approach Krishna and Balaram. And they say, hey, Rama, Rama, mighty armed one. O Krishna, chastiser of the wicked, we are being harassed by hunger and you should do something about it. So the boys were complaining to Krishna and Balaram, you told us not to bring lunch, but now we are hungry. And they are ordering the Lord, you better do something about it because we're not able to control our hunger. You have chastised all these demons. If you're so powerful and you've chastised these demons, we are sure you can produce some good foodstuffs for us to eat. So the Lord was very pleased. He's being ordered by his friends. Give us some food. And therefore the Lord tells them, in a place very close by, there are a group of Brahmanas. They have studied the Vedic scriptures They are performing the Angi Rasa sacrifice, and the reason that they're performing this yajna is because they want to go to Swargaloka. They want to be promoted from earth to heaven. So he tells the boys, you go there and you ask these brahmanas for some food. But tell them that my elder brother has sent you. After you mention Balaram's name, then you can also mention my name. So, what did the Lord instruct the young friends? Go to the Brahmanas, ask them for food, let them know that Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna have sent us to you, and you should kindly supply us with some food because we are hungry. So the boys were very eager. So they left Krishna and Balaram behind, and they all go to the place where the Brahmanas are performing this sacrifices. They offer their obeisances to the Brahmanas. Their palms are joined, and they begin speaking. They glorify the Brahmanas. They say, "Oh Brahmanas, you are earthly gods to us. Please hear us. We are actually cowherd boys. We are executing the orders of Krishna, and we have been sent here by Balarama. Please acknowledge our arrival." And then the boys tell the Brahmanas, "Do you know, Lord Rama and Lord Achyuta are tending their cows. They are not too far off from here. They are hungry and want you to give them some of your food. So please, can we have some food to take it to Krishna and Balaram?" Now, the Brahmanas definitely saw the little boys. They heard the little boys, but they refused to acknowledge their presence. They were so focused on their yajna, they thought, who are these little kids? Who is this Krishna and Balaram they're talking about? They didn't want to be disturbed. They wanted to continue with their yajna. So the boys patiently waited, hoping to hear a positive answer. But unfortunately, the Brahmanas failed to reply. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no. They just ignored the boys. And so the little boys were very, very disappointed. So they go back to Krishna and Balaram and they report to them what had happened. When the Lord heard that the Brahmanas did not even respond to them, he simply laughed. And he told them, "This time, I want you to go back, but this time you approach the wives of the Brahmanas and tell them, I have come to this forest along with my brother Lord Sankarshana. Ask them for the food. They will give you everything that you need because they have a great deal of love for me. And indeed, they are always thinking about me." So first Krishna sent them to the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas didn't care for them. This time Krishna is saying, go to the wives, ask them. First of all, tell them I'm here. Then you ask them for the foodstuffs. Definitely they'll give you because they love me so much, they will not refuse you. So this time, the little boys go to the house where the Brahmanas' wives were staying. There too, they offered their obeisances to the ladies. They were all decorated beautifully with nice ornaments. And with a great deal of humility, the little boys speak to the wives as follows. Kindly hear our words, O wives of the learned Brahmanas. We have been sent here by Lord Krishna who is passing by not far from here. He has come a long way with the cowherd boys and Lord Balaram, and they are all tending the cows. Now he is very hungry, so some food should be given for him and his companions. What did the wives do? The minute they heard the name Krishna, they immediately dropped everything, packed up all the food stuff, whether it was fully cooked, half cooked, whether it was offered in the sacrifice or not. They became ecstatic. All of them were in ecstasy. They were eager to see Krishna. Why were they eager to see Krishna? They had never seen Krishna before, but they had heard about Krishna. They had heard descriptions of how beautiful he was. And they were anxious to see their Lord. So in big, big vessels, they packed up 4 different kinds of food stuff, everything smelling really wonderful. And they just, all of them simultaneously just rushed out of their houses into the forest looking for Krishna. And as they rushed out of their houses, their husbands, their brothers, their sons, and other relatives told them, "Wait a minute, what are you doing? Where are you going? You can't leave without our permission. There is a yajna being performed. This is not proper etiquette." They didn't care. They just ran. They had a burning desire to see Krishna. And they developed this love for Krishna simply by hearing about Krishna's transcendental qualities. So now they had to make a decision. Should they listen to their husbands, brothers, sons, or should they go see Krishna? They decided, better for us to go see Krishna. So along the river Yamuna, there was a beautiful garden of Ashoka trees. And they're carrying this heavy load with them. And their eyes fall upon the Lord. You remember the Lord is a little boy. He's not in his 4-handed form as Vishnu. So now we're going to go into the Bhagavatam and read what is it that they're seeing. How do they speak to the Lord? So they caught sight of the Lord strolling along in the company of the cowherd boys and his elder brother, Balaram. And now they are seeing the Lord for the first time. His complexion was dark blue and his garment golden, wearing a peacock feather. Colored minerals. Colored minerals means Mother Yashoda would put all kinds of designs on Krishna's face, color it up before sending him out of the house. Sprigs of flower buds and a garland of forest flowers and leaves. He was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend and with the other twirled a lotus. So the Lord was leaning on a friend's shoulder with one arm, and with the other arm, he was rolling a lotus in his fingers. Lilies graced his ears. His hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. O ruler of men, for a long time, this is Shukadev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. O ruler of men, for a long time those Brahmana ladies had heard about Krishna, their beloved, and his glories had become the constant ornaments of their ears. What was decorating their ears? Not expensive jewelry, What had decorated their ears were the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. They heard so much about the Lord that their mind was always thinking about him. Indeed, their minds were always absorbed in him. And now what were they doing? Through the aperture of their eyes, they now forced him to enter within their hearts, and then they embraced him within for a long time. So these are married women. Although they wanted to go and embrace the Lord physically, culturally they could not do it. So mentally they were embracing the Lord. And not for a short time. For a long time they were embracing him. Why? Because they were experiencing separation from the Lord. They had heard so much of the Lord that they were anxious to see their beloved. In this way, they finally gave up the pain of separation from him, just as sages give up the anxiety of false ego by embracing their innermost consciousness. That's how much love the Brahmanas had for Krishna just by hearing. Lord Krishna, who witnesses the thoughts of all creatures, understood how those ladies had abandoned all worldly hopes and come there simply to see him. Krishna understood what a risk they had taken. They simply abandoned their families and ran out of their houses without even considering the consequences of what could happen for leaving their house without their husband's permissions, their son's permissions, their father's permissions. They had a deep desire to see the Lord. Therefore, Krishna begins to speak to them. And what does the Lord say? Welcome, O most fortunate ladies. Please sit down and make yourselves comfortable. What can I do for you? That you have come here to see me is most appropriate. Even though they had violated all cultural norms, the Lord was telling them, you did the right thing by coming to see me. And he asks them, what can I do for you? Certainly expert personalities who can see their own true interest render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service directly unto me, for I am most dear to the soul. So we were talking about Jivatma yesterday, and we were talking about our real identity yesterday. Our real ID card says servant of Krishna, but we are pretending to be masters of Maya. Krishna says those souls who have fully realized and recognized that it is only the spirit soul that matters and that the spirit soul has a permanent relationship, a loving relationship with Krishna, then what does that Jivatma do? Without any motivation and without any interruption, they perform bhakti. They exhibit their love to the Lord, which means such souls are not going to Krishna and saying, I want this from you. I want that from you. Can you please supply this to me? And can you please supply that to me? No, they don't have any motivation. Their only motivation is, he is my master. I am his servant. I want to serve him with love. I want to please my master. So my devotees, they only care that they have to please me. They don't even care about themselves. They just want to serve me. And Krishna is talking about those who are attached to their family. It is only by contact with the self that one's vital breath, intelligence, mind, friends, body, wife, children, wealth, and so on are dear. So Krishna is saying when you're attached to your body, you're attached to your relatives, you're attached to your wealth, you're attached to your beauty, you're attached to your intelligence. You are attached to your body, you don't want to leave your body. Therefore, what object can possibly be more dear than one's own self? So Krishna is contrasting between his devotees who understand their real ID card and those who are not his devotees, who are too caught up with all their temporary ID cards. And then Krishna breaks their heart. He tells them, you should thus return to the sacrificial arena because your husbands, the learned Brahmanas, are householders and need your assistance to finish their respective sacrifices. You would have heard us say that Krishna repeatedly focuses on dharma, that all of us have a duty and responsibility in whichever varna and ashrama we are in. If we are in the grahastha ashram, we have responsibility towards our spouses and our children and our family members. So Krishna is telling the Brahmanas' wives, you did the right thing by coming to see me, but now I'm instructing you to go back. You have to serve your husbands. You have to serve your father. You have to serve your family. Now, Krishna has told them to go back, knowing fully well they actually did not want to leave. He already read their mind. Once they'd left their families, what else is there to do? I'm seeing my Lord. I want to worship him. I want to serve him. I am not interested in going back to my family. It seems like such a mundane thing to do. So the wives of the Brahmanas complain to Krishna. They say, "O Almighty One, please do not speak such cruel words." They're telling the Lord, why are you being so cruel with us? We gave up everything for you. Rather, you should fulfill your promise that you always reciprocate with your devotees in kind. They're telling the Lord, we came here to serve you, and you should reciprocate with us. And then they're telling the Lord, now that we have attained your lotus feet, we simply wish to remain here in the forest so that we may carry upon our heads the garlands of tulasi leaves that fall from your lotus feet. We are ready to give up all material relationships. So once you've seen the Lord, you don't want to go back. And that's how the wives were feeling. They were thinking it's too late. The minute we heard your name, we just came rushing. We didn't think twice about our families. Now you're asking us to go back. How can you be so cruel, Krishna? How can you be so cruel? See, when you fall in love with Krishna, you fall out of love with everything else, material. And the wives say, our husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, and other relatives and friends will no longer take us back. And how could anyone else be willing to give us shelter? So, culturally, once you leave the house of your husband, you can't go back. Society will reject you because you've done the unthinkable thing. So, the wives are saying, even if we want to go back, they will reject us. So, who's going to give us shelter except you? Therefore, since we have thrown ourselves at your lotus feet and have no other destination, please, O chastiser of enemies, grant our desire. What was their desire? They wanted to be with the Lord and serve him. They were even happy to just pick up the tulsi leaves that was falling off of the Lord's lotus feet, pick it up, make it a garland, and keep it on top of their heads. Even that was service. And so the Lord says, what was the wives' worries? Their families will not take them back because they had done the unthinkable by not listening to their family members when their family members said, stop, don't go. So the Lord says, rest assured that your husbands will not be inimical toward you, nor will your fathers, brothers, sons, other relatives, or the general populace. I will personally advise them of the situation. Indeed, even the demigods will express their approval. Krishna is saying, not only I am telling you to go back, even the demigods, if you check with them, they will also tell you to go back. They will approve of my instruction to you. And Krishna is saying, I will transform their hearts, don't worry. It's not that Krishna was going to go physically, confront the Brahmanas, confront everybody and say, what you did? No. Through the heart, he's going to change the hearts of the Brahmanas without even visiting them. So he's reassuring the wives, you please go back. Don't worry, you'll not get into trouble. And the Lord says, for you to remain in my bodily association would certainly not please people in this world. Krishna is saying, if you hang out with me, the world is going to do a lot of talking. And then Krishna is saying, nor would it be the best way for you to increase your love for me. Krishna is saying, by being with me physically, that's not the right way for you to increase your love. Sometimes we think only if we are in physical proximity of the Lord can we love him. So the Lord is telling, rather you should fix your minds on me and very soon you will achieve me. And then Krishna is going to talk to them about how they can deeply fall in love with him. It is by hearing about me, seeing my deity form, meditating upon me, and chanting my names and glories that love for me develops, not by physical proximity. Therefore, please go back to your homes. Krishna is saying, the way everyone falls in love with me, how do they do that? They're always hearing about me. They are worshipping my deity form. Their mind is always thinking of me. Their mouth is always chanting my names. By doing all of this, hearing, seeing, thinking, remembering, chanting, Krishna says, that's how you will fall in love with me. Just because you're in my physical presence doesn't mean you'll fall in love with me. Therefore, please go back. Thus instructed, the wives of the Brahmanas returned to the place of sacrifice. The Brahmanas did not find any fault with their wives, and together with them, they finished the sacrifice. Exactly as the Lord had promised, when all the wives went back, there was not a single complaint from any of their husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, etc. They just said, please come, sit for the sacrifice, let us finish it. Except for one Brahmana's wife. One of the ladies had been forcibly kept back by her husband. So one husband successfully prevented his wife from going to see Krishna. Now all the other wives have returned and she's hearing from them about Krishna. How beautiful he looks, how rumbling his voice is, how sweet it is. So when she heard the others describe the Supreme Lord Krishna, she embraced him within her heart and gave up her material body. The basis of bondage to material activity. Just hearing and remembering Krishna, she passed away. She was in such ecstasy. Krishna says in chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita that we should think of him at the time of death. Because if we think about him at the time of death, Krishna says, I will personally come to pick you. But how can we think of Krishna at the time of death unless we practice every day? Even if we can't think about him, if we are chanting his names as we leave this body, Krishna will come to take us back. And since none of us know when we are actually going to leave the body, we have to chant all the time, every time. We should never stop our chanting. For chanting the holy names of the Lord, there are no rules. With bath, without bath, with beads, without beads. So if you are a neophyte, you can start chanting. There are no rules. There are no restrictions. Anybody can chant the holy names of God. You see, the Lord himself is giving us instructions here. We have to hear about him. We have to see him in his deity form. We have to think about him. We have to chant his names. He says, this is the process for you to fall in love with me. Now you see the difference between the reaction of the Brahmanas when the boys came and said, Krishna and Balaram are here. Even though these Brahmanas were apparently reading the scriptures, when they heard the Lord's names, they ignored it. They could have gone and paid their obeisances to the Lord. They should have gotten up from their sacrificial fires and run towards the Lord. But they were so focused on their material desire, I want to go to heaven. Even when they heard the Lord's name, it didn't make any difference in their hearts. But look at the Matajis here. Look at the wives. They were not well read in scriptures. They were simple women. Only they had heard about Krishna. They had never gone to Vrindavan to see Krishna. But just hearing about Krishna, they fell in love with him. And the minute they heard his name, they rushed out. They were ready to violate all cultural norms just so that they could take darshan of the Lord. They were ready to leave their families behind so that they could be permanently with the Lord. And now they are such exalted devotees. When the Lord says, go back, they obeyed the Lord. Yes, they protested a little bit. They told the Lord, why are you being so cruel? The Lord says, I'm not being cruel. You go back because otherwise society will speak. You go back and serve your husbands nicely. Finish the yajna. So after the wives left, the Lord is serving all the boys who are hungry. After he finished serving them, then he sat down and took the food, took the prasad, took the bhoga, I should say. The Lord is ever willing to serve his devotees. So Shukadev Goswami is saying, thus the Supreme Lord, appearing like a human being to perform his pastimes, imitated the ways of human society. He enjoyed pleasing his cows, cowherd boyfriends, cowherd girlfriends with his beauty, words, and actions. So everybody in Vrindavan was in love with Krishna. They could not help themselves. And now you will see the transformation of the Brahmanas. So the Brahmanas say, we have sinned, for we have denied the request of the two lords of the universe, who deceptively appeared as ordinary human beings. So they understand that they've committed an offense. If they were told that the Lord is here, they're asking for some bhoga, they should have run to offer the Lords what they wanted. But since they disregarded, they have committed an offense. And look at how they are praising their wives now. Taking note of their wives' pure transcendental devotion for Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and seeing their own lack of devotion, the Brahmanas felt most sorrowful and they began to condemn themselves. We mentioned earlier that Prabhupada says it is very easy for a woman to perform bhakti. A woman has faith. A man may have a lot of doubts. Prabhupada said, because women are very simple, they can worship the Lord with all their hearts. So time and time again this week, we've come across women who are great devotees of the Lord. That kind of devotion is very rarely offered to everyone. So there are a lot of lessons that we can learn in this particular pastimes. How, when there is an opportunity to serve the Lord, you should take it up. The deities in the temple are non-different than the Lord. So any opportunity we get to serve the Lord or to serve the devotees of the Lord, we should immediately take it up. Just look at the mood of the wives. They didn't say, wait a minute, I have to finish cutting my vegetables. I have to make this. I have to serve my husband. I have to do this. They didn't come up with any excuses. Service means picked up, ran. That is the mood of a pure devotee. They will take any number of services because by performing services, your consciousness is getting purified, your heart is getting cleansed. The more services that you perform, the closer you get to the Supreme. The more you attract the attention of the Supreme. Meantime, the Brahmanas are cursing themselves. They are saying, to hell with our threefold birth, our vow of celibacy and our extensive learning, to hell with our aristocratic background and our expertise in the rituals of sacrifice. These are all condemned because we were inimical to the transcendental personality of God. They are telling we became the enemies of the Supreme God because we were so caught up in material things. We are so puffed up that we knew the Shastras, we are performing this great sacrifice, nobody better disturb, because disturbance is considered contamination. We have to begin the sacrifice all over again. So their motive for continuing with their sacrifice was selfish. And they say the Lord's Mahamaya potency bewildered us. And they're saying Mahamaya bewilders even the great rishis, what to speak of us. As Brahmanas, we are supposed to be the spiritual masters of all classes of women, of men, yet we have been bewildered by about our own real interest. And look at how they are praising their wives. Just see the unlimited love these women have developed for Lord Krishna, the spiritual master of the entire universe. Krishna, one of the names of Krishna is Adi Yogi. He is the master of Lord Shiva also. This love has broken for them the very bonds of death, their attachment to family life. These women have never undergone the purificatory rites of the twice born classes, nor have they lived as brahmacharis in the ashrama of a spiritual master, nor have they executed austerities, speculated on the nature of the self, followed the formalities of cleanliness, or engaged in pious rituals. They are saying, our wives didn't do any of these things that we have done. Nevertheless, they have firm devotion for Lord Krishna, whose glories are chanted by the exalted hymns of the Vedas, and who is the supreme master of all masters of mystic power. We, on the other hand, have no such devotion for the Lord, although we have executed all these processes. Krishna says in Shloka 15 of chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishta matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvam ahameva vedya vedantavid vedakrit eva chaham. So Krishna is saying the actual purpose for studying all of the Vedic scriptures is to know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am Sarva Karana Karanam. I am the cause of all causes. There's nobody above me. There is nobody beyond me. There is nobody equal to me. All devatas bow down to me. I am the master of all the devatas. I am the master of all the rishis. And so the Brahmanas say, this is one important message we seem to have forgotten, even though we are supposedly well learned. So they say we forgot the true aim of our life. The true aim of our life is to go back to Krishna. But yet when Krishna came, our hearts didn't melt with love for him. And so the Brahmanas say, but I think the Lord arranged something here for us. He arranged everything so beautifully. Through this incident, he told us what is important. The Lord didn't come there to give them a big lecture. The Lord simply benedicted their wives, and through their wives, the Lord has given the Brahmanas lectures. Indeed, infatuated as we are with our household affairs, we have deviated completely from the real aim of our life. But now just see how the Lord, through the words of these simple cowherd boys, has reminded us of the ultimate destination of all true transcendentalists. And this particular chapter, they're offering their obeisances to Krishna. They are begging his forgiveness. They say, I'm sorry, my dear Lord, we didn't recognize you. Hope you'll kindly forgive us our offense. Well, if they really wanted forgiveness, they could have gone into the forest and fallen at the lotus feet of the Lord and begged for forgiveness. But they did not. Why? Thus, reflecting on the sin they had committed by neglecting Lord Krishna, they became very eager to see him. But being afraid of King Kamsa, they did not dare go to Vraja. They were not brave and bold like their wives. Their wives didn't care. King Kamsa will find out that we went and saw Krishna. King Kamsa will find out, oh, Krishna is here. Although they wanted to see the Lord and they could have gone to see the Lord, they did not out of fear. So now you see the contrast between the husbands and the wives. Who's more of a sincere devotee here? It's the wives. Even though the wives were not deeply educated in scriptures, but they heard the Lord's name, their hearts melted and they ran. The Brahmanas also had an opportunity to serve the Lord, but they declined that service. Actually, they didn't decline, they ignored it. Decline means saying no. But they didn't say yes, they didn't say no. They just ignored. Oof, what an offense. So the Brahmanas' wives had an opportunity to see the Lord, take his darshan, get his benediction, because the Lord gave them instruction and told them, you do this, you'll come back to me. Even though they didn't want to leave the Lord, still they followed the instructions of the Lord and came back home. So many times, even in our lives, we may face challenges in our own household. If we are trying to practice Krishna consciousness, somebody in the family may try to stop you. So this pastime is a very good instruction on how to handle it. You can read this chapter and realize that you can still practice bhakti yoga, but you have to do it in such a way that it doesn't disturb your family members. So you have to use your intelligence on how to worship Krishna, especially if family members object to you practicing Krishna consciousness. So as we said, Krishna always focuses on dharma. The dharma for a wife is she should always be under the protection of her husband. So Krishna sent them back. But he also told them, you do this, you'll come back to me very soon. Actually, this should be our mood. Our mood should be like the Brahmana's wives. Just by hearing about Krishna, they develop such deep affection for Krishna. So you see, through these pastimes over the last few days, you can understand why the human life is so rare, it is so special. And today, we're going to go very quickly through some slides to understand the difference between matter and spirit. Yesterday, Mother Devahuti asked Lord Kapila, please tell me the difference between man and woman, matter and spirit. Today we understood a little bit of a difference between man and woman through this pastime. And now we're going to understand a little bit of the difference between matter and spirit in this chapter. Before we begin, let's offer our most humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And let's recite the Pranati mantra before we begin. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauravakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So we're going to talk about matter and spirit, and we're also going to talk about the difference between animals and human beings. There are certain things that are common for all Jivatmas, and there are certain things that a human being is different from all the other species. So the four things that are common between an animal and a human being is the fact that we eat, we sleep, we mate, we defend. And Prabhupada says the only difference is that the human being does it with sophistication. So we spend a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of money to do these four basic things that all Jivatmas do. We want luxurious and different type of foodstuffs every day. We want variety. We want luxurious beds to sleep in. We want bigger houses. We want beautiful wives, beautiful husbands, rich wives, rich husbands. So everything that we do, animals also do. It's just that we do it with far more sophistication. But I'm going to come back to these slides here. What is the difference between matter and spirit? Matter is made of 5 elements, and this physical body within which the spirit soul resides is also made up of 5 elements. But between these two, if I had to ask you, which is more precious? All of you would say human life is more precious. The table on the left gives you a list of all of the elements that constitute the human body. If I take this car and sell it in the market, it will probably fetch me 50, 60 lakhs if it's a brand new car. If I take this material elements, I extract it from the human body and I sell it in the market, I will not even get 150 rupees. First thing we can appreciate is the creative potency of the Lord. In order for us to create a car, first of all, we had to do so much research, design and development, how combustion engines work, how tires rotate, how fuels evaporate. So much money has been spent in research. Then to produce a car, we had to dig deep down into the earth to extract the iron ores. Then the iron ores cannot be used exactly as they are. They have to be sent to a steel factory. The steel factory has to use 2500 degrees centigrade to melt that iron ore. Then the steel is made into sheets or rolls or wires. Then they have to be shipped on a train or by a ship to the factory that is going to manufacture the car. They have to set up a huge factory. They have to produce the car. Then they have to advertise it. Then they have to sell it. Then they have to do after sales service. So much complication when a human being is trying to create one object. So much effort. And the Lord effortlessly creates 84 lakh species. How effortlessly, the Bhagavatam says, the Lord simply glanced over material nature and all the Jivatmas' bodies were there. So the Lord can just look and create. Now let us say you're in a mall shopping and you own a BMW, and suddenly you hear an announcement saying, "Will the owner of the BMW please come to the parking lot? Your car is on fire." Oh, when you hear this news, immediately you'll be completely tensed up. You will think, my God, my car is brand new and it's on fire. I still haven't paid it off. So much EMI is there. So your mind will just go into complete anxiety and you're running out of the mall and going to the parking lot, and there you find out it's not your BMW, it's somebody else's. And suddenly You experience such joy. Why? What was the difference between the two incidents? In one, the first reaction is, it's my car. The second reaction is, thank God it's not my car. So that goes to show you how attached we are to material things. Sometimes we don't value human life. When it's alive. Sometimes we value a human life after it is dead, because then you can take the body parts and sell it in the market and you can get a lot of money for it. And people are desperate for a heart transplant or a liver transplant or a lung transplant. They are willing to pay whatever it takes because they want to protect their life. But to produce one car, we have to go through the processes again and again and again. It is not automatic. It's not like you produce one male car and you manufacture a female car. They will come together and produce one more car, and this goes on. Look at the Lord's beautiful design. One male, one female, and the factory is done. Endlessly Jivatmas are taking birth through this process. No digging deep into the earth, no wastage, no pollution. So every time we try to be creative, we think we are the master. We think we can compete with the Lord. Actually, Prabhupada says, everything that we are doing in the material world, we are trying to imitate God. If God can create, we can create. Right? That's how we are all leading our lives. So, obviously, we know human life is precious. If there is a car accident and your loved one is involved in the car accident, you will pick up the person out of the car and rush him to the hospital. You will not worry about servicing the car and repairing the car, because innately we all value life. But sometimes we behave as if life is not precious at all. So all that is valuable in human society depends upon the opportunity for development accorded to the individual. The most important thing is to have a sense of responsibility, commitment, and concern for each of our fellow human beings. The two most important days in your life are the day that you are born and the day you find out why you were born. There is no cause more important for preserving freedom than affirming the transcendent right to life of all human beings. Actually, not just all human beings, all creatures have a right to life. The right without which no other rights have any meaning. Human life is invaluable, but we behave as if there is something even more valuable. So, coming back to the difference between now animals and humans, and then we'll look at matter and spirit again. So, what are the differences? Both humans and animals have intelligence, and all uh, living entities have consciousness. Even trees and plants have consciousness, although their consciousness is very, very subdued. It is said that human beings have the highest level of consciousness in the earthly planets. So, animals can also reason to a certain extent. They can also be very intelligent. I watched some videos sometime back where a lady was teaching her dog how to speak using buttons. You know, each button would have a different word on it. Thank you, Like, I want to go out, I want to play, I'm afraid, like that, different buttons. And she was teaching her dog to communicate with her by using these buttons. And you'll be shocked that the dog actually had a vocabulary. Obviously, not a vocabulary to match a human being's vocabulary. But the dog was very successful in communicating to this lady who was his owner and master what it wanted. So if it had to go out to pee, it would communicate using the buttons. I've seen videos of crows and squirrels being taught things. So, in fact, some of the capabilities of animals are superior to a human being. A dog has a far greater sense of smell. An eagle can see from a great deal of height. An elephant can consume a huge amount of food. And mosquitoes can reproduce thousands of times within a short span of a few days. So, what's the difference between living matter and dead matter? So, in Sanskrit, that which has life is called Chetana, and that which has no life is called Jada. We said yesterday that the body undergoes these 6 changes. It, it takes birth, it grows, it maintains itself, it produces some byproducts, it then begins to dwindle, and finally it dies. But with that car, it simply depreciates in value. Every Jivatma can perceive, they have some mental acuity, and they have some purpose. Whereas matter cannot think, it cannot will, it cannot feel, and there is no intentionality. So every Jivatma wants to protect their own life. If you try to harm a dog, it will do its best to either defend itself or run away from you. Same thing, you try catching a mosquito, how frustrated you get. The mosquito wants to save its life. So every Jivatma has an instinct to save themselves. Because every Jivatma is Satchitanand. The word Sat means eternal or immortality. Chit means full of knowledge. What knowledge? Not material knowledge, spiritual knowledge. And it is full of bliss, Ananda. So we are Satchidananda, Lord Krishna is Satchidananda. We get this quality from Krishna. That is why the soul is always looking for Krishna. Of course, you can only focus on spirituality if some of your basic needs are met. If you are very poor, trying to go and preach to the poor and saying, no, no, you have to read the Bhagavad Gita, you have to do this, you have to go do service in the temple. No. When people uh, don't even have much in their life, we should focus on making sure that their physiological needs, their bare minimum needs are met. After that, you can talk to them about spirituality. Because the mind will not accept spirituality when it is disturbed. So, what is the problem with our civilization? We have all the tools, we have all the gadgets, we have so much science, so much research, so much advancement has been made, yet we are not happy. What is the reason? Because all of this that we are spending our time and effort on, at some point, we know it is temporary. You can travel faster than the speed of sound. Of course, those are those bomber aircrafts. We can communicate with people far across the ocean. In the sense, we can do things far better, faster, quicker than our forefathers. You would think with all these conveniences, we will have more time to spend on spirituality. The whole purpose of making your life convenient is that it frees up time for doing something better. Not that it frees up time so we can go hang out in bars or watch movies or engage in endless amount of sports or binge watching on social media. We have created so much comfort and convenience that all of the free time we are misusing it. But in order to chase these things, we are willing to put ourselves through whatever stress. So in human life, we purchase things which we don't need to show off to people who we don't like with money we don't own. So the worst thing is we're doing everything on credit. Do you know our Shastras say ideally we should never take a loan because loan means stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety means you are not in the mood to focus on your spirituality because you're always thinking, I have to pay off that loan, I have to pay off that loan, I have to pay off that loan. So ideally we should not take loans, but in modern day life it is impossible to live without a loan. So what is our problem? Because we are not leading a very meaningful life. That is why we are anxious, we are stressed out, we have so many problems, we are always unhappy. And the reason for that, Prabhupada says, is we are just leading a sophisticated animal life. Animal life means no spirituality. Just eating, sleeping, mating, defending. On all four, we have spent a lot of money. But we've not spent any time and effort on spirituality. That is why we are unhappy. So animals can inquire about where's my food, where am I going to sleep, who am I going to mate with, how will I defend my territory. But human beings can ask far more sophisticated questions. Why are we born? Why do we die? Why do we get old? Why do we get diseases? How can I be permanently happy? See, that is the privilege of human life. And there's a Vedanta Sutra that says, Athato Brahma Jignasa, which means the purpose of human life is to inquire, is to ask these questions. Why am I suffering? After death, what happens to me? Why do I have to grow old? Why do I have to die? Why do I get diseases? Where is that permanent happiness and how do I get there? These are the questions that human beings have to ask. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those people who are inquiring, they are very intelligent. Those people who have looked at birth, death, old age, and disease, they are very intelligent because they know that is the real problem. You know, when the Yaksha asks a series of questions of Yudhishthir Maharaj, one of the questions he asks is, tell me what is the most amazing thing that you have seen. And Yudhishthir Maharaj says, the most amazing thing I have seen is that people see the death of their loved ones, but somehow they are acting like as if they will not die. They think death is for others, not for me. And so they are leading their lives like this in ignorance. And so Yudhishthir Maharaj said, this is the most amazing thing I've seen. Nobody thinks they're going to die. So, what are the things that determine whether we understand these things? One is our false ego, the attachment to I, me, mine, my family, my society, my nation. This is the false ego. Then, what we are carrying from our past life, all of the conditionings, our desires, our intentions, that impacts our intelligence. Our upbringing, if we were not born in a devotee family, we will not learn any of this Because parents don't have time to teach their children spirituality. Parents have time only to push their children to be successful, to be famous, whatever. Fourth, unless we associate with other devotees, how will we get infected with Krishna consciousness? So if you associate with an alcoholic, Prabhupada says pretty soon you will also become an alcoholic. So if you want to be infected with Krishna consciousness, you have to go to devotees who are already infected with Krishna love, then you'll get it from them. And of course, the last thing is, do you really have the willpower to pursue this path of bhakti yoga? So there are three kinds of sufferings Krishna says all of us experience in life. Those sufferings that we inflict on ourselves, those sufferings inflicted on us by others, and those sufferings inflicted on us by Mother Nature. Mother Nature is controlled by all the devatas. So that is called Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adidhaivika. So these are the three sources of our miseries: ourselves, others, and devatas. Of course, devatas cause you trouble when you are disrespecting and disobeying the Lord. So that means we can either find a material solution to these problems, or we can find the permanent spiritual solution for these problems. We know that the material solution is going to be temporary. So Prabhupada used to say, if you have a boil on your hand and you can just keep blowing on it, okay, if you blow on it, it may not burn. But that doesn't mean the boil has been taken care of. You have to surgically remove the boil. Then your suffering may end. So similarly, we are dealing with this boil of materialism, and we think we can just blow air on it and we'll feel better. But we have to go to the root cause. What did we say? Yes, in the karma class, what is our root cause? The ultimate root cause is we are disconnected from Krishna. So yes, there can be a lot of material solutions to old age. You can buy certain creams, make certain tablets, have some tablets. If there is a tsunami, you'll get an alert and the jivatmas will just run for their lives. If there is a disease, you can get treatment. If you're depressed, you can take pills for that. But still, death, there is no solution. So Krishna is telling us we have to focus on spiritual solutions for material problems. And the root cause of my problem is my wrong identity. My identity that is telling me I am the master, when in reality I am the servant of Krishna. So Krishna is saying here, Dehi nityam avadhyoyam, Dehe sarvasya bharata, Tasmat sarvani bhutani, Natvam shochitam arhase. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. So our problem is we think we are this body and we are not the soul. So we think we are the cage and we can disregard the bird sitting inside the cage. We are nicely polishing the body, but we are not taking care of the soul. We are giving food for the body, but no food for the soul. So if there's no food for the soul, how are you going to be happy? So Krishna in chapter 2 talks about two kinds of dharmas all of us have to follow. Our swadharma and nitya dharma. What is the meaning of swadharma? Swadharma means I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my family. I have duties and responsibilities to society, to nation, etc. So everything based on the bodily platform is called swadharma. None of us can neglect it. But the core problem is that we have neglected for many lifetimes our nitya dharma, our duty towards the soul. How do you feed the soul? We call it the ABCD formula, which is we have to take the association of other devotees. We have to read the books, the scriptures, we have to chant, and we have to do deity worship and change our diet. So this is the ABCD formula. So real intelligence means going beyond the physical into the spiritual. Then you will understand who you are as Jivatma, who is Ishvara or Paramatma, and what's my relationship. So what is the path to the self-realization or enlightenment? We said, what is missing in our life? We said, Krishna is missing in our life. Why are we here? We said, self-realization. So how do you get there? You see, the mind cannot be trained because it's a spontaneous, it just reacts to things. But the intelligence can be trained because that's where the thoughts originate. So our misidentification is that we think we are the master when actually we are servant. But the Lord has designed this world to inflict punishment on us, not because He is cruel, but when He gives problems your way, He's hoping you will think. It's like an alarm bell ringing in the early morning. You have to get up and get out of bed. So He wants you to think, why am I suffering? Instead of trying to put a band-aid on the suffering, try and find out what is the root cause. Why am I suffering? So the Lord did not make a mistake by designing the universe that way. It's not a design flaw, it is actually a feature. So if all we do, even with spirituality, if you only keep reading, but you're not applying, there will be no transformation in your heart. So if you want transformation, it is not jnana, you need to get to the stage of vijnana. Transformation means you should be ready to follow the instructions of Krishna. You should be ready to follow the instructions of Guru and founder Acharya. As we said, the process to get started is the ABCD. Association of devotees, reading the scriptures, chanting, and worshipping Krishna, and along the way, at some point in time, changing your diet to a sattvic diet. So there is a little graph there at the bottom right. There was an experiment done with devotees who chant the holy names of the Lord. What is their brainwave frequency? So if the brainwave frequency is anywhere from 0 to 8, it is said you are in tamogun. You like to sleep, you're barely active, you may be very confused individual, you don't believe in taking any actions, you're lazy. Actually, Krishna calls such people mad. They're full of illusion. Rajogun means you're always active, sometimes hyperactive. So that brainwave frequency is 13 and above. Krishna says those who are under the influence of Rajagun, they are always running, busy doing this, busy doing that, making plans, making adjustments, thinking this is a goal, that is a goal, that is a goal. I have to achieve all of this. They're always chasing things. And Krishna says they have immense anxiety because of the network of thousands of desires. The more material desires you have, the more anxiety you will have. And Sattva Gun is a state of relaxed alertness, where the brainwave frequency is from 8 to 13. So those who chant the holy names of the Lord will eventually reach this relaxed alert stage. It's called the alpha zone. So the benefits of chanting. So we should all practice spirituality. So how do we grow spiritually? To grow spiritually doesn't mean you have to go to a forest, be alone, sit by yourself, don't act. You can grow spiritually by being very active. But you have to have a deep sense of purpose. So we can use our minds, we can use our senses, we can use our intelligence, we can use everything in the service of Krishna. And that's how we are actually going to grow spiritually. But then, knowledge is best received when it is desired. So, for whoever is desiring this kind of knowledge, they will be receptive, they will contemplate, and they will act on it. And thus, they can completely transform their lives and become great devotees of the Lord, just like the Brahmana's wives were, simply by hearing about Krishna. They developed deep love and affection for the Lord. They were attracted to the Lord.